welcome to what hopefully will be a series of things that I like to call Guest Geezer, since I'm a geezer, we're both geezers collectively. Yes. This is my hopefully first in the series of interviews that I'm going to have. With me today is one of the early owners of early aftermarket frames, 50/50. Currently, he is the star of Back to Blading, which started off as a blog or a vlog, in which he was showcasing his journey back into rollerblading after, I believe, 12 years.
Yep.
And it has ballooned into a series of videos which include reviews, vlogs, and interviews with various members of the community. Recently, he started bringing back 50/50 frames, which he was a major contributor to in the early days, but now is bringing back in full force. So with me today is Lawrence Ingraham. How do you do?
I do great, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for agreeing to all this.
No problem. Happy to help.
Thanks. So my first question to you is, what inspired you to get back on skates after 12 years?
Sure. So, I skated for most of my youth. I started skating when I was 15, 14, and probably skated up until I was 22, 23. Started a family, moved away from my scene where I grew up skating, and just didn't have the time. I felt like, kids take a lot of time out of you, so the sleep that I was missing was more important than putting on some skates again.
Right.
That probably lasted a few years, and I started playing ice hockey again. I had a friend who was a family friend who was playing ice hockey, and we just got to talking at a party one day, and he mentioned that he played ice hockey. I said that I used to play ice hockey. It would be great to get back into it. So I picked up some gear, I started playing ice hockey with him, had a really great time, and I did that for about 4 or 5 years. Then we had our second kid, and I realized that I needed to stay in shape throughout the week rather than just trying to get to the weekly or every other week hockey game. So I wanted to get a pair of rollerblades so that I could skate around the neighborhood and just stay in shape. I can't see myself running or going to a gym or something like that, but skating was always something that came really natural to me. It's an amazing feeling. So if I could find some skates for myself to do at my time, more power to me. So that was kind of the way that I got into it. I had no goal of getting back into the aggressive skate park, handrail, mini ramp style of skating. It was really just fitness. But once I put them on, I just had this, I went to a local skate shop and saw some of the products that I'd worked on, and I had one of those, like where they do in the movies where they have the tight focus and then the near focus where they're just like, the guy is like, whoa, and I'm like, oh my god, there's all my work in my 20s, and everything came back to me at that split second. I was like, all right, well, I'm back. Like, there's no way around it.
Yeah, awesome. So with that, you started Back to Blading, and what is your goal with Back to Blading?
So I started the Back to Blading channel really just to document my comeback. When I was playing ice hockey, I would always set up a video camera at the rink, either suction cupped to the end of the rink behind the goalie, so that I could see where I was going wrong or where our team was falling apart with defense or something like that. I'm always looking for ways to improve myself. And I would always review that video, and I would look at, what did I do wrong? I had a little bit more time. I could have, gone a little wider on this or taken a little longer to shoot on this. So that mentality transferred really easily to skating. And I brought my camera with me, and I figured not only should I put the camera out for tricks, I should talk to the camera and just kind of document what I'm feeling and what thoughts are in my head. Mostly just for me, I just wanted a record of it, like a journal. And I posted it on YouTube, and a couple people saw it, and I posted it to some of the skater Facebook groups and message boards just to get some feedback. What am I doing wrong? It's great to be back. What tips do you have for me to skate better? And it really just kind of took off from there.
Yeah.
The response was really positive. It felt as though the community needed something like this, where it wasn't a professional skater doing the tricks. It was somebody who is like you and me, who just goes out there and has fun and falls a lot and learns and, you know, explores their local scene and their skate parks. And that's really been the secret to my longevity and my success, is that there are so many people out there like us who love skating, who just want to see other people skating and having fun with it.
Yeah, that was a big thing for me. Back when I was my younger days, when I was with a larger crew, I was a videographer. So like I have all of our stuff cataloged, and I uploaded all my stuff to YouTube, and I'd sit there and just sort of pine away for it. Like, I kind of miss these days. But then I was like, after I saw your stuff, I was like, why am I pining away for something? I could be going out and just watching me do Lord knows what, because it is amazing. Like, I remember somebody years ago had done a hey, I'm turning 40 edit.
Yeah.
This was like years ago, and I think it was French. I wish I could remember the gentleman's name.
Sure.
But everyone was like, oh wow, this guy who's 40 and doing all this stuff.
Yeah,
and I was like, I hope to be doing that. And now I'm on the cusp of it, but it's you know, it is a big thing.
It is a huge thing.
Turning 40, and I mean, to me, you know, age is a number.
Right.
And that's just been my mentality. I'm still 17.
Yeah.
Yeah. But switching from that, you were one of the owners of 50/50 Frames. I remember in one of your, I believe it was one of your gear talks, you had mentioned that you initially weren't part of the ownership, but you'd actually gotten in another way. So how did you get started with 50/50 Frames?
Sure. So back in '95 is when 50/50, the skate company, was formed. Maybe '94. And the product line back then, it was designed for the skates at the time, which was the Rollerblade TRS, maybe the Rossi's Majestic 12. This was really back in the days when things just started. The aggressive scene just started getting the attention of the skate companies, and they started making skates for what we were doing. So the Tarmac CE and the Rossi's Majestic 12 were probably the first ones that we were going after. Those skates were great, but they weren't optimal. You know, they were kind of designed for the broader market. And 50/50 decided that we could make little pieces of plastic called grind plates that you would put on the side of the skate that would make this frame stronger. It would make it slide better. And, you know, it was a great accessory. You could come out with different colors of this plastic, and people could have the same skate, but it would look different because you had a blue grind plate and you had a white grind plate. I got involved with the company, so that was a couple years. My partner Jess, current partner Jess, and then the original owner Ted, they were the two who started the company. I got involved because I started a skating online company, making a magazine called Sequence Magazine. And Sequence was it was kind of a precursor to Back to Blading, where I wanted a way to showcase what we were doing in the Bay Area. I grew up in Alameda, California, right outside of Oakland and San Francisco. And all of the media for skating was either in New York or it was in Southern California. But there was a lot of skating going on in other pockets of the world, and we wanted to showcase what we were doing in Northern California. So I would go out and I would take pictures, and I would shoot video and then digitize the video and then post it as an animated GIF on the website so people could see these real small, it was 1995, so it was...
Images were a different story back then on the internet.
Expectations were different too, though, so anything moving on a web page was amazing. But I would do that, and I went through probably 20 issues of a monthly magazine. And the first issue caught the eye of Ted, who also lived in Northern California. And he said, hey, do you want to do our website? And I said, obviously, like I already skate, I already know you. He worked at a local skate shop and did the 50/50 thing part-time. So I started working with him doing the website, and then I did graphic design for the grind plate packaging, and then I did kind of like an operations manager role where I was responsible for making sure that the product was being made, that it was being produced properly, quality control, and then getting shipped out. And slowly but surely, we got to a point with 50/50 where it was a nice company. We decided to relocate down to Southern California, and they gave me a percent of the company to help me feel better about uplifting from living in Northern California for 20 years and moving down to Southern California and becoming part of the company.
Okay, so what influence? Because you're all about designing things. What influenced your frame designs with 50/50?
Sure. The 50/50 frame was an evolution of the Rossi's Majestic 12 frame. So the initial 50/50 frame that was compatible with the Majestic 12, the old school aftermarket frame, really was a Majestic 12, but with a deeper groove and a stronger, beefier design.
Okay.
We took that design because it worked great. You know, that's what we were skating. That's what our team riders were skating, and it was a great frame. You don't need to do much with frames. And we took it. We skated that design for a while. And that design hadn't changed for 3 years. I mean, as soon as we nailed that design with the pre-groove and the split and the H-block, we were like, this is good. Like, let's just stick with this. When we designed our second frame, which was the first UFS frame, we just transferred that design over to a UFS style. And it worked, again, it worked great. But we looked at ways that we could improve it. There were a few things like changing from 6mm axles to 8mm axles to respond to the way that skating has been maturing. A lot more gaps, a lot more big drops, and people were breaking 6mm axles. So we said, well, why don't we figure out a way to make that stronger? Topside tricks were really big. So the way that people were skating was evolving, and we wanted to make sure that the frames were optimized for the grinds and the tricks that they were doing. So we built those little juice bumps on the side that helped prevent slipping off on topside tricks and made it a lot less resistance when you were doing soul tricks. So really just looking at the way that skating evolved and then modifying our products to react to the demands of the skaters and just paying attention. That was ultimately why we did those things.
Yeah, that's how I've noticed that skate companies succeed, is actually listening to what the community needs.
Yeah.
And it was a boon for a lot of them.
Yeah.
But now that you're bringing back 50/50, what are you looking to accomplish with this company?
Sure. I love the 50/50 frames that I designed. The balance frames are the ones that I skated the most, and that when I got back into blading 2 years ago, I started skating again. I had an old pair that was probably from the first pour that was the setup that I skated with, and that's just what I skate. I feel good about it. It responds well to the way that I skate. And I was bummed out when I tried to find another pair and I couldn't. And the ones that I could find were marked up, $80 a pair. And I was like, well, these are great frames. The only reason that they're super expensive is because they're not being made anymore. Is there a way that I could make a limited run of them and just bring them back so that other people can experience them? Because there's a lot of people out there who haven't skated the 50/50 frames that I designed, and I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to do so. There's so many different technologies out there that everybody's skating is different that might be good for the way that you skate. You won't know until you try everything which one is best for you. So I know that it makes me feel happy and it makes me skate better skating these frames. Guaranteed there are other people out there who would like those frames and would probably skate better if they had access to them. So that was the first thing. The second thing is I want to keep pushing skating. I want to make sure that now that the frames are back in, I can reinvest the money that I make from those frames in developing new frames. Because the way that I skate has changed from the way that I skated back when I designed those frames. I really like skating faster. I like using bigger wheels. I like skating skate parks more. And I feel like there's a lot that can be explored with frame technology, wheel technology, boot technology that I haven't been able to do because I never had that perspective. And also, to be honest, money was always very tight back in the 50/50 days because we had full employees, and I'm doing this as a side gig, just as more of a passion project. I still have my full-time job. So I can reinvest the money into building better things and doing research and development and coming out with new products, even if it's a very small run, just a test to see if it's something that people would like.
Okay, cool. Well, you answered my other question about the frame design that you're most proud of.
Yeah,
So-
definitely the balance frames.
Yeah.
Those were the second version of the UFS frames. The balance frames just fit me great. I love the juice blocks on the inside, which are, the anti-rocker setup, but it doesn't spin, so it's a freestyle frame, but with a tight groove. Locks great on rails, locks great on ledges, doesn't have that big slop that you would typically get with a freestyle frame because the groove is not
As
huge.
wide, yes.
It feels like an anti-rocker setup, but with no resistance. You just slide on the frame. And it's lighter and it's cheaper. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's a really good compromise, especially for people starting out who just want to learn how to skate. Ride some big wheels on the outside and you're up and running for, $60 out of the box.
Yeah, so going back to when you mentioned UFS, because I remember when that first came out,
Yeah.
I was excited because back for me, I had 50/50 frames and you had to have adapter plates for USDs. That's what I rode the classic Thrones.
Yep.
My friends, they mainly rode Razors, and then when they wanted to go to the 50/50, they were still in school at the time, and I was home, so I could actually put those things together. And,
Yeah.
Oh, those adapter plates. But going into that, did 50/50 have any say in the UFS? Who really came up with that UFS system? First of all, I want to applaud them.
Yeah.
It was sort of like this common sense. Why aren't we doing this?
Yep.
But did 50/50 have any input for how UFS was going to be set up?
We did. So Solomon approached us to do some frame purchasing.
Okay.
They wanted to start including different aftermarket frames on their skates. They had just hit the market, and they came to us and they said, we'd love to do something because we want to start looking into. They had already been adding Senate wheels, I believe, to their skates and different, partnerships with different brands. They wanted to do a frame thing, but it wasn't possible. They knew how popular our frame design was, but they couldn't do it because the way that the 50/50 frame was designed was not optimized for the Solomon boot.
Right.
So the Solomon boot, from the beginning, was always flat. It had a frame that mounted perfectly flat to the bottom. And in order to get the forward lean that most skates have, that's a very natural feeling, they put a shock absorber on the inside of the boot, which also added with, shock absorption. So it was a little bit raised in your heel. It made doing gaps better. It made skating better. It felt really great. Waiting for the car.
No,
the problem was that the way that 50/50 frames originally came was not good for a flat boot. It would require a very high base plate in the front in order to balance it out, and the frames basically would feel like platform shoes. So they said, we want to do something. What do you guys feel about working on a standard with us that you could design frames, other companies could design frames, we would support frames, we would open up the standard for everybody so that everybody could make this. And obviously that was something that we were super into as a skater. Probably not a great business decision as a frame company that was already making, had the lock on the aftermarket frame market. But it was the right thing to do. So we partnered with Solomon, USD, Razors, Senate, Able, and that might have been it at the time. And we opened it up to everybody, but those were the companies that were interested in contributing. And we went to town and we started throwing out ideas like what would it need to do, what would it look like, how would it mount. We all agreed that a 2-hole mounting system was all that we needed. Anything more than that was overkill. We all agreed that it needed to be flat so that you could mount it on a Solomon because the internal shock absorber was a no-brainer. Once you saw that, you knew that that was the future of skating. And then sky's the limit. So we all came up with our different designs. We all contributed to the spec, and then Solomon ended up doing the heavy R&D, building the boot, building the sole plates, and then building the initial prototype frames that got them UFS.
Well, now that the train's gone.
Yes.
Before I was interrupted with the train,
Yeah.
one of the things that I had mentioned, I was trying to get into was the fact that 50/50 had one of the best teams out there.
Absolutely.
Especially in the late 90s, early 2000s. and you got to work with some legends
Mm-hmm.
in the industry. Was there a favorite skater that you liked working with 50/50?
Sure. I mean, from the beginning, John Julio has always been an amazing contributor to everything. He and I started skating together in San Jose. He was from Milpitas, and I was going to San Jose State University at the time. So we had skated together before any of the 50/50 stuff started. And yeah, I mean, he's just an amazing guy that's really devoted his life to skating. And you could tell at the early days that he just had something different about him.
Yeah.
The way that he looked at skating, the way that he looked at rails. I remember when he was first skating, we went to a place that had a rail and a ledge, and he couldn't skate the ledge very well, but he skated this rail like it was nothing. And that was a really weird shift, because we had all grown up skating curbs and ledges because rails are scary.
Yeah.
But he had no fear. He was just jumping on no problem, soling these really steep rails, and it was just like me skating a curb. And that was that first, like, there are skaters out here that are very different than what I'm used to.
Yeah.
John always had a really good way of providing feedback for product. He was responsible for helping with the initial 50/50 frame groove, giving it that tighter groove that made break-in period almost non-existent. You can get out there with a brand new pair of 50/50 frames and skate like you were skating broken-in frames. There's no issues, and that was mostly due to him and Champion Baumstimler, who was also there at the same time.
Yeah.
So definitely, hats off to John for everything, and he's still doing it. He still had his 40-year edit last year. I mean, he's killing it. Aside from him, I mean, it's really hard to put into a list or anything. For me, like, creatively, I always loved working with Dominic Sagona. He was always super responsive when I would send him ideas or product ideas, and he was also local to the headquarters, our office down in Costa Mesa at the time. Rashard Johnson was great. Again, we would get him product and we'd say, break this, and he would go out and try to break it. But he was really devoted to just making the products better. And you get these, every skater's a little different. Some of them just go out and skate and they don't know what they're doing. They're skating really well, but they don't know why. So you can give them two completely different frames or two completely different wheel profiles, and they'll just say, I don't know, it skates fine for me. And then there's those who say, well, this kicked out a little bit too much on a turn to my left, and when I did a topside trick, this felt like it was a little sloppy. And those are the skaters that you really want, the ones that skate really well, good enough to know the difference between products, and then can put into words what differences they feel. And I think that we got really lucky, definitely with Richard, definitely with John and Dominic, to name a few, who were super good about responding to that sort of that change and giving us really good feedback.
That's awesome. Last question. It's been a pleasure talking to you. What would you like to see happen more in rollerblading? I mean, we are currently, I've been involved in for nearly 20 years now, and I've seen, I guess when I got involved, it was like at the pinnacle.
Yep.
And it's been slowly shifting in this different direction. It's just like, I hardly know anybody anymore, but it's like the names, there's still a couple names out there and whatnot, but like, I've seen the environment changing, and it's, I don't know, maybe just because of my old school mentality. But from your perspective, since you've been involved in the industry and you've been skating for way longer than I have,
Sure.
What would you like to see happen more in rollerblading now?
I think we have a really unique time right now that we need to capitalize on. I think rollerblading has had its ups and downs over the years, just like every action sport has had. What's interesting right now is that the people coming back to it, like yourself, like me, are passionate about the way that things used to be, but are uncertain about the way that things should be and the way that things will be in the future. Gone are the days that we're going to have those big IMYTA competitions with hundreds of people showing up. Gone are the days that you're going to go to the skate park and there's going to be 20 so rollerbladers, half of which you've never heard of or met before. That's just not reality. So personally, I feel like the the challenge right now is to keep people skating.
Right.
And I think people are going to organically come back to skating, whether it's exposure through pop culture with a Drake video or with some random, YouTube video that they see, or some advertisement or whatever, and they'll say, "Oh, rollerblading, I remember that. I want to get back into it." There's also going to be the potential of us skating around, particularly with like big wheels, tri-skates or whatever, that catches the eye of people. And while they're just hanging out in their city or downtown or on a trail running or something, they'll see somebody on skates and say, "I remember when I used to do that." Not necessarily aggressive, but just skating in general. I used to do that. I love that. Let me look into it. And then, the challenge is, how do they find that spot? How do they find where to get those things? Because you can't really go to skate shops anymore.
Yeah.
And the big box like Dick's Sporting Goods or Sport Chalet or whatever, they have a very small subset of the product line. So that's something that I don't know that we can really fix, between you and I. What we can do is motivate people to stick with skating for as long as they can. I plan on skating for as long as I can. I find it a great form of exercise, not only physically but mentally. Whether I'm doing aggressive at a skate park or whether I'm doing distance skating on a nice trail with big wheels, or whether I'm just skating around my city, exploring things, jumping over stairs, just having fun with friends. There are all different ways that you can skate. Keeping people engaged is the goal now.
Yeah.
So the more that people skate, the more opportunity there is for other people to see people skating. The crew thing is gone though. There's not going to be a group of people. And one of the things that I'm doing personally to try to help that is the Back to Blading community. So the video series is called Blading Community. And every month we're going to do a new trick that we're going to encourage everybody to submit a clip for. So this first month is a very basic trick that anybody can learn, in a few sessions. Get a clip of yourself doing it, upload it to the website, and at the end of the month I'm going to combine all of the tricks into a single edit and post it to the YouTube channel. YouTube channel currently has 3,700 subscribers. It gets 1,000 views per video. It's probably going to get a lot more for this video. That is a way to get exposure for people and to stoke people out and to motivate them to go out and skate.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be somebody local. It's just somebody part of your community. And your community could be anywhere. It's on Instagram, it's on YouTube, it's on Facebook, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So we're going to continue doing that. Every month there's going to be a new trick, and every month there will be a new video. As of today, as of this morning, we had 130 clips submitted. Wow. Which is ridiculous. So this was in the last 3 weeks. We announced it, beginning second week of November, and we've had 130 people take the time to set up a camera, go to a skate park, do the trick, dump that into their computer or go to the website and upload that trick with their name so that they could be part of this edit. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So the community is strong and it's growing. We just need to make sure that it stays around.
Right.
I think that the easiest way to kill the community, to kill the momentum, is by just hiding in your home. And it's going to be hard with winter coming, but hiding in your home and just saying, "Oh, I'm not interested in skating. There's, I've already done all the grinds that I need to do, or I've already skated everywhere that I need to. I'm over it." Now, every month there will be a challenge that everybody is encouraged to participate in. And everybody can be part of this blading community, regardless of where you are, regardless of how good you are, regardless of what skates you have. Let's just all get together and skate.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is what's going to strengthen skating for the next few years and into the future.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mr. Ingram, for being part of this. This has been the first edition of Guest Geezer. I am Sam Miller, signing off.